to the reprise of our very successful ATIA session, Approaches to Managing AT Device Inventories. I'm Amy Goldman, and I'm very pleased to introduce our distinguished panel that you'll hear from today, and I'm sure you'll benefit from the wealth of their experience. We're condensing a 90-minute presentation into 60. So if we do not have time to answer your questions, hopefully you are all members of the Demo Loan Community of Practice, and feel free to email your queries to the Demo Loan Community of Practice listserv, and we'll keep the conversation going. So at this point, going to turn it over. Well, first of all, here's our learner objectives. And now, just want to remind you, we're not going to be talking about data collection on loan activity or satisfaction, or talking about devices you should have in your inventory. So take it away, Justin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Justin Amber. I'm with the INDATA project at Easter Seals Crossroads, Indianapolis, Indiana. I manage our loan library here for the Indiana Assistive Technology Act. First, here's just a little overview of our project. We carry all types of AT, low, mid, and high-tech equipment. Our library size is about 2,500 items that we manage here, and they're stored in metal cabinets and bulk shelving units, and then it's all located centrally here in our main office in Indianapolis. Our state's not too big to get around and ship things around, so we just have one location that people borrow things from. There's 2 staff responsible for all of this equipment. Myself, I'm the full-time employee, and then we have one part-time. He works 5 days a week from about 8 until noon. And there's some pictures there you see on the slide of where we keep all of our equipment. Next. In order to keep track of all of our equipment, we use an online database, AT for All. Some of you should be familiar with this. There are 20 AT programs around the nation that utilize AT for All, and it's managed primarily through the Nebraska AT partnership. And there's changes each year that come to AT for All, and all the programs vote for those annually, and there's a shared cost of the approved upgrades. I couldn't tell you exactly what that would be. As far as inventory of equipment goes, we enter in all of the equipment into AT for All, and we give it an inventory number and a location. So there's an example here. 315 would be our department code just here internally. And then 7231 would be the number that we assign it. So 7231, it's just the next number in line for the equipment. And the list of numbers are kept in a notebook. And then we also just recently started putting it in a worksheet on Office 365 on SharePoint. So that we have access to it, always have access to it, just in case one of us isn't here. 29-4 would be the cabinet number and the shelf number. Inventory is conducted yearly between October and December. Typically, when all is said and done, inventory will take between 2 and 4 weeks. So October to December is kind of when we block out time to get all of that done. But typically we'll get it done pretty quickly. So it's not going to take that entire time. How do we conduct inventory of equipment? We export an Excel list from AT for All, and then we sort it by location. And then I actually go into the library, and so does the assistant in here. And we actually go and count everything by hand. You should see an example on there. And you can see the cabinet number. So the cabinet number would be 7, and then the number next to it is the shelf that it's actually on. So we can tell what numbers we counted, and then I go and track that in an Excel sheet. Each item is given a category. So there's one as in library, checked out, or in repair, or removed, broken or missing. As far as removed items, we have a form for that, and it's called the end of useful life form, and that is taken out every year. Challenges, both past and present. Right now, time. We're always crunched for time because we're always pumping out all these loans. So there's always a time issue that goes into it, even though we kind of give ourselves a 3-month cushion there to get it done. Tracking down equipment. That could be equipment that people have out or staff that has equipment. And then there's retrieving overdue loans. In the past, we've had inaccurate entries. So, we used to do it by location by category. A lot of times we would misspell things, numbers weren't right. So we kind of simplified it to be the cabinet numbers instead of category of equipment. It's a lot easier to keep track of just simple numbers. Missing equipment was a big issue when I had initially started here because of the inaccurate entries. Organization, obsolete equipment. We've done a lot of getting rid of old equipment, and then location of the prior inventories that we had taken. And I think we're skipping questions and going on to the next person. Is that right?
Yep.
Hello, everybody. My name's Kevin Hansen, and I work at California Foundation for Independent Living Centers here in Sacramento. And if you need to get a hold of me, there's my email address and my direct line for you. Next slide, please. Some of the background on our state is we're a membership, our company is a membership organization where we currently have 22 out of the 28 independent living centers or CILs that are part of our membership. And we just received a renewal of the AT Hub grant for California, and it's effective July 1st, and it's going to go for 39 months so that we get on to the federal grant cycle. And we currently compete for the grant every 3 years. We have some programs here that offer different benefits to people with disabilities. And for our programs, a lot of these programs utilize our inventory system. And if you'd like more information, just give me a call or an email on this slide. We're really trying to get it down to that 60 minutes. Currently, we contract with 11 AT centers and independent living centers, and my office serves as the 12th. Between all of our lending libraries, we have 5,000 items for loan, and it averages anywhere from 140 items to 500 items, or that's the range, and then it's 300 items per location. And we are also using the Nebraska AT for All online database as Indiana. The AT for All system is really good at tracking consumers' information, processing short-term loans, open-ended loans, and even reuse transactions. Tracking loans and sending out reminders. I really like the reminders that I get when something's coming due. They also have a lot of good reports to pull up information and the needs that we have to track things down. The one thing that we thought AT for All was lacking was the ability to help us do a physical inventory. And at some point we decided that we needed to do something else to do a physical inventory. And before I started working here, we started using an Excel spreadsheet, and I believe the next slide has that picture. And in that picture, It's an Excel spreadsheet where we list the items, the AT for all website ID, the make and the model, and then we have some checkoff boxes where we confirm that it has a DOR sticker, which is our Department of Rehabilitation, our VR for us. And then whether it's in the on hand or if it was on loan. But next slide, please. As we found out with this, everybody that was using that spreadsheet was kind of doing it their own individual way. And the data was not consistent throughout center to center. And one of the things we found is the accuracy wasn't there. The actual completion of the inventory wasn't there. And we had no way of actually proving that the item was at the lending library. So we knew there was a problem going on. At one point, one of the worst experiences I've had is I started new in this, and one of our centers lost their inventory or their contract, and I was asked to go to Southern California, which is a 6 to 8 hour drive flight, rental car, involved. And I rented a little U-Haul and went to go do a quick inventory because I had it all on the spreadsheet that you saw previously. And the center had marked everything with their own personal identification number, and they were not using our numbers for the AT for all. And we knew at this point that we had a huge problem, and we were having to compare our numbers to their database to find our equipment number or theirs that was on the equipment. And it was really a big hassle. We knew we were in huge problems with this. Let's go to the next slide. So I call this in 2013, the inventory awakening. They were also not lending or marking the equipment with VR equipment stickers, property stickers, or the correct inventory number. So we needed to take charge of this situation and try and fix things. So next slide, please. We developed a plan to fix this. We made some rules and procedures, and part of it we described who can edit or add equipment to the AT for all website. We pretty much made it just the staff can enter the information, but they have to give us an item add form, which tells us what they added, and we view it for accuracy. And then we created a filing storage process for when some items get lost, stolen, broken, or whatever. We needed to have an inventory of when and where were the conditions for writing equipment off. We decided also that we needed to inventory each lending library every 12 to 18 months personally. Next slide, please. So what we did is we had an employee here at the office. Her name was Rosemary. She went through and exported a center's inventory from AT for all into an Excel spreadsheet, and she updated the descriptions for uniformity. And as she went to the next center, she added more products, more information, more uniformity, and then she would copy and paste the content from the cells in the spreadsheet into the AT for all website and make sure that all the pictures were the same for the same item. iPad was written the same way, and that an employee would do the physical inventory. So once that process was complete, next slide, please. In order to make this happen and be able to do a more thorough job of what's going in and out, we decided that we needed to get a third-party management or software. And we use a product called WASP, Asset Management Software. When we started doing the inventories and updating the records online, and we would we started to start with the smallest center, so if we made mistakes, it wouldn't be that time consuming to fix it. We wanted to learn and develop a better process and refine it. So we did that. And then we set a goal to have all of our lending libraries inventoried in the next 24 to 30 months. Next slide. One of the problems that we came across was that some of our centers had purchased inventory with the VR money, and some of the centers had done both, purchased it with the VR money and their center money. And so we needed to distinguish how to recognize what's VR equipment and what's center-owned equipment. So we did a little acronym in the front of the number. If it's owned by VR, we did ATN in front of the numbers, 5 to 6 digit number. And if it was owned by a center, in this case we have Cecil, we put their acronym in the front of the number to show that they owned it. When I go do an inventory, I'm only concerned about the stuff that VR purchased for the centers. When we scheduled the inventory, I typically give the centers 4 to 8 weeks to prepare and track things down and figure where things are at. Next slide. So part of the management software that we purchased was, I have a picture here of a handheld scanner on the left, where you can actually put in the center that you're at and the in the city. So some of our centers have 2 offices, and we can distinguish between where the inventory is between their offices. And then I have another handheld scanner that actually plugs into a USB port. We actually thought that was going to be a purchase we never used, but it's used quite a lot. I'll go into that more later. There's a picture of a software that we bought in the bottom center. It's yellow, WASP mobile asset. And then we purchased a printer for the labels that can be a variety of sizes and shapes, but we chose a 2-inch by 1-inch label. And then the bottom right is kind of a picture of how it prints out and looks. Next slide. Initially, the WASP system cost us about $3,500, and we bought it in August of 2013. And then a year later, we decided we needed more licenses because we were going to use it more. So we spent $650 for those extra 2 licenses. And then we initially bought an unlimited version for about $1,700, which puts us at about $5,800 total. And the initial purchase price included the handheld scanner, USB scanner, software, and 3 licenses, and about 4,200 labels for our equipment, and then a 3-hour training, and it was worth every penny. Next slide. So this picture is a picture of the WASP database itself. You can filter by location. You can filter by the website ID or sort by the website ID any way you want. You can customize the labels going across the top. This is essentially, you know, a database that looks like an Excel spreadsheet that's been, you know, fixed up a little bit. And it's a really good program for us. It's working great. Next slide. Once the database had been updated on the AT for All side, we were able to export the data from AT for All and import it into WASP with the CSV file. And then we were able to print out the 2-inch by 1-inch labels, and these labels were hand delivered the day we did our initial inventory. Next slide. Every item on the day of inventory was labeled, but the process took us 5 to 7 hours depending on the amount of inventory they had and how well it was organized. And as we labeled each item, we scanned it with the scanner, and then the handheld scanner that we showed earlier actually interfaces with WASP through a USB port, and you can transmit it to your database wherever it's located, and then you can post the inventory, or you can create a post-inventory report, which I believe is the next slide. So what I did is you can export your inventory results for the center. And what I did is I created a spreadsheet where you have the website ID, then an item name label, which is what physically appears on the label that we print out. And then I count to the rows. So in this case, we had 200 pieces of equipment that we inventoried. On the day of the audit, we had 155 items there, and 9 of them were on loan that day that I was there, and 1 was stolen. And so each of the rows or columns is counted. And right now I know that the center and I need to find 35 missing items. A lot of times that's real easy to find. We just skipped over something and we're able to update both systems real quick and make sure that they're there and accounted for. Next slide. The best features of WASP, it really decreased our inventory time from 5 to 7 hours down to 2 to 4 hours. And our centers are doing very little to no prep. They're making sure all the loans that are outdated or overdue or get checked in and whatnot. But really, I think there's a little cleaning up and organizing, but there's not a lot of prep work for the centers. But it does take us 2 to 4 hours. It's easy to maintain the database. It's really accurate. It allows multiple users. So right now we are using this database. We created a new database for our office equipment, cell phones, tablets, furniture, laptops, and desktops. Then we have the Digital Access Project, where we help disabled individuals or low income find internet access in their homes, and we were giving away T-Mobile hotspots and Chromebooks, and we had to inventory those. And then we have another program called Voice Options, where we have about 110 iPads that we need to inventory, plus different types of mounts for that project as well. So we've been able to incorporate the software in multiple facets of our organization. Next slide. You can customize some of the best titles or best features continued is customizing column titles, exporting the data to a CSV file, importing new inventory really easily. The inventory stickers are high quality, they last. If the stickers are too big, we put them on a 3x5 card and in a Ziploc bag next to the item or on the box. Some items are just too small for that big sticker. That's kind of a drawback. And then even 5 years later, we're still getting technical support from the company that we purchased from, and they've been outstanding. Next slide. The not so good features, the initial cost. It was hard to spend that kind of money, but it's been worth it in the long run. And as you can see, we've invested more. The handheld scanner tends to be a little slow during the inventory process. You have to scan the item. It thinks and processes for about a second, second and a half, and then it beeps, and then you can go to the next item. And sometimes that gets frustrating because you just want to, scan, and it doesn't work that way. You can customize reports is not so good. And then having to work with 2 different databases, the AT for All and WASP, whatever change I make in one, I have to make in the other. And it's a little time consuming sometimes to do that, but effort's really a lot easier when you think it all the time. It saves you at the inventory day. Sometimes when you sync the inventory remotely, depending on the center's connection, it's difficult to get the data to transmit. Some centers, it's easier it's faster and easier to do it with my mobile phone hotspot. And then the last not so good feature is the way it prints the labels. It's not a numeric order, and that's kind of rough when you're trying to find things numerically, or you can't do it alphabetically either. So next slide. So our next purchases, one of the things that I want to do is move our database to the WASP cloud. For us, the upgrade is $1,000, and this will make it possible for us to use cell phones for the inventory management and not the handheld scanner. I'm hoping that this process, the scanning, will go a little faster and be easier to work with, and just about everything you can do in the database, you can do on your cell phone. Or if we can't afford that, if we don't have money for the $1,000, I'm going to try and get one license to work with our current database at $300. Next slide. Any questions? All right. And we'll turn the time over to Maureen.
Yep, and we'll come back because our panelists are doing a great job of talking quickly. So we'll probably have time to come back for questions at the end. So thanks a lot, and we'll move on.
Hi, I'm Maureen Malonis. I'm with the Assistive Technology Program of Colorado. And next slide, please. Our Colorado loan program is, we're located at the University of Colorado in the Department of Bioengineering. And the part of our loan program that I'm going to talk about today is we have a loan that is done to support all of the assistive technology needs in the schools in Colorado for children, well, and early intervention as well for children birth to 21. And we have about 1,500 items in that loan bank, and it's staffed by a great team. About, well, 2 part-time people help support the actual loan bank process. So we do have other people on the staff that do other things, professional development and so forth. And we are located in one location, and we do that because we're able to use the library courier system through the public libraries in Colorado. They transport our equipment 3 days a week. They literally drive it out to the community. Next slide, please. So what we're going to talk today, one of the things we're going to talk about is the challenges in device management, the physical inventory, the tracking, identifying the loan status, getting stuff back. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we went through. We've tried several different programs here, and I'll talk about our challenges as well as kind of what's working for us right now. So next slide. As I said, we have over 1,500 items, and those items are changing annually. We're ordering every month. So it's an ongoing cycling through of equipment. We have over 100 active borrowers through this particular system, and any given time we have 40 to 60 borrowers on any given day. And about 1,400 items are borrowed in a year, and they are borrowed for 4 to 6 weeks. So just to give you a sense of that, in the last 6 months, we had $2,700,000 in equipment that was in and out of our building. One of our challenges is needing to collect pre and post data on usage, both for our Colorado Department of Education and for the annual tech reports. Another challenge, as you'll see in that picture there, some of the devices in our loan bank we have created by pulling together lots of parts. So that is an example of a literacy kit based on the book Shark in the Park. And so there's lots of AT and lesson plans and all kinds of different manipulatives in this box, but very challenging to check in and out, as you can imagine, because it's all one thing. So that's one of our challenges. And then we wanted our borrowers to know when items are on loan and how long they might have to wait, and of course, data collection. Next slide. So we, when we started, we had a different kind of internal system, and we were looking, kind of shopping around for something that we could use, and we made a fairly detailed list of our needs. One of the things we wanted was an ability to require our folks to sign in, so we would know who was borrowing and we could track their usage. But we also wanted anybody to be able to go to our loan bank and look at things. So, you know, teachers, parents, grandparents, whomever. And I'll give you guys the link as well. You can go and look. So we got that in the system that we're using. We also wanted an automation of emails, an ability to send late notices automatically when things were overdue, kind of minimizing the tasks on our end. We wanted to be able to help people when they were searching without them always needing to contact us for help. So some ways that the system could help them. And then we wanted to add a lot of videos and education within the system, links to things. We wanted to categorize by content areas, so communication or access, but also by features. So we might categorize by augmentative communication device, but then have features such as dynamic display. Again, to help make it searchable on those different levels. We knew that we're kind of a unique program. And so as we were looking at some of these one-off systems out there to manage inventory, we wanted something we could easily customize. And a lot of the systems that we initially looked at are storefront kinds of things. Like there's a lot out there in that realm, but they all had a way for you, a payment option. And we didn't want that because none of our folks are paying. So we wanted not to have that. And most of those storefront options don't allow you to remove it. And finally, we wanted it to be really easy to search. Next slide, please. So this is an example. There is on the top of the slide is the link to, if you'd like to go look at it yourself, SWAC with 3 A's, then goalexandria.com. The name of the tool we use is Alexandria. It's a system that's designed for public libraries in the United States, a database that's designed for them. So you'll see that a little bit, but we are able to customize almost everything about it. So it works great. This is kind of the page you see when you first log in, and a couple of different search features, as well as the bulletin board. On the button for the bulletin board allows us to add, you can go and look at that. There's trainings there, how to use the loan bank. Again, trying to minimize the time commitment on our end so people can just go and get what they want. Then when they make a request, they do an item request survey. That's the icon on the lower left. They can go and check what their item due dates are. They can also see what items we've added to the loan bank, so new items that might be in. And then if they really are having trouble knowing what to borrow, we designed this assisted search request. So it literally takes them through a series of questions. It's not an assessment, but it helps us narrow down what things they might consider borrowing that might be helpful for them. So as I said, anyone can access this, but our team coordinators who are allowed to borrow get this next level of sophistication when they access it. Next slide, please. So if you hit that search button on the previous slide and you decided you wanted to search for a mount, this is what it would look like. You type the word mount and it would come up with some results. There's a little caret on the right-hand side that if you click on that, it drops down and it allows us to add different things under that item. So for almost all of the items in the loan bank, we've added 2 videos. One demonstrating how to use it, how to turn it on, anything like that. And 2, a demonstration video of it being used ideally in a school setting. So those are just videos that we've found on the internet. They're not things that we made ourselves. And some other things we like about it, about this system, is it allows a borrower to add items to a list. So as I said, you know, a teacher might go in and say, hey, I think these 4 items would work really great. And they can add that to a printable list and then give that to their AT coordinator to borrow things. You can sort by a couple of different things. If we go to the next slide. As I mentioned, we organize things on 2 different levels. This loan category, things like augmentative communication, adaptive computer access, books and resources, so forth and so on. And then within each of those categories, there is a further breakdown. So it'll break down to switches, for instance. You can get into multi-sensory switches or mechanical light switches, which again, just helping the borrower try to figure out what they're wanting, what will work for the student they're working with through this system without a lot of technical assistance on our part. We're certainly there and do provide a lot of technical assistance, but we want to make it as easy as possible. Next slide, please. So after they hit that search feature, then they fill out the item request survey, and they'll literally put the information, the data that we need to collect. And then it comes to our, an email is generated, an automatic email comes to us that automatically holds that item, puts it on hold because it's been requested. Then this is the picture on the upper right is a picture of our loan bank. It's literally, I think, 5 of those shelves wide, maybe 6. It's a big room. And we inventory much like Justin and Kevin described. We have a coded system for each item. It has a place where it belongs, and if that place is empty, we know that item is out. And so someone on our team gets that email, they go, they check out the item in the system, and then an email is automatically generated to the person that your item has been checked out for you and it's on its way. And we find that really helps because then if it doesn't arrive, they can start looking for it and know some kind of help us in if there's any challenges in delivery. When items are returned, they're returned again via the courier to our office, and then we check them as they come in. We check them each time for condition, make sure that they're working, make sure all the parts are in there, make sure it's clean and everything before it's put back on the shelf and available for loan. One of the things that we've done to really make this easier for us is to create a laminated sheet. So for every item in the loan bank, particularly the ones, really for every item, there's a laminated sheet next to it, and it lists every item that is included. So with a communication device, it might be the charger, it might be a CD or a USB drive or whatever is in that box, everything that's important, overlays, things like that. And so then when you get that box and you open it, you can see that checklist and that everything is checked, that it's arriving to you with everything included. Then you just erase that when you're ready to send everything back, and you can use a little dry erase marker and check everything back into the box before you ship it back to us. And then when we get it, we pull out that piece of paper and check everything again. So that way small items are not getting lost. We know right away, and we know who has it and who to go back to. So hopefully that makes sense. Next slide. So every summer we do annual inventory every July. Again, since we're working with the schools, it's a good time to do it. They don't need the items as much. So all the items are returned. We catalog and inventory them. We also, because we're part of the University of Colorado, have to do asset management tagging with the university. So that whole process takes about 20 hours of time, and it's done by 2 people. We used to use a barcode scanning system, but as Kevin mentioned, there is a delay. Our folks decided it is just so much faster to have one person at the shelf saying, yes, it's here, and the other person sitting at the computer just check, check, check. They go right down the list. The nice thing about our Alexandria tool, it does this inventory process as well. There's an inventory tool on it on our administrative side. And whatever doesn't get checked in that inventory process is automatically generated to a new list of not present. And so then we can literally take that list and send it initially to our team to see if maybe someone has borrowed something without checking it out, or if it's located in another place in our office, and then work our way through finding those items. It's been a great way to check things. And because we're checking things as they come in and out every 6 weeks or so, we don't have to check the box for every item, and that was already done. So it's very quick. So less than 20 hours to do all of the items in the loan bank. And let's see. Okay, next page. So what we like about Alexandria, it's an off-the-shelf package, but it's pretty customizable and pretty intuitive. Anybody can go in and look at it. We felt like it's less expensive than a customized system. We pay $1,100 per year. We have it's both our inventory management as well as the day-to-day loan bank kinds of work and the generation of emails and so forth. So that's great. It offers a way to indicate that an item is already out. So anybody could go in and say, oh, that's already checked out. And we can easily generate a list and send it out to everybody to say, this is what the wait list looks like for your items. Super easy on the librarian side as well. It's very intuitive. There's a notes section that we use all the time for notes, an internal notes section. So we can say, oh, this item, it was a little glitchy, or this borrower had some problems last time. We might need to give them a little support. So whoever opens that item can see those details. We added all our own pictures, so that's awesome. We have this new item slideshow that I talked about. We can also track the life cycle of every item, so we know when we bought it, who purchased it, how many times it's been checked out, and so we do every 6 weeks or so we send out an email of what we call unloved items, things that haven't been checked out in a while that maybe people just didn't know about. And we do a picture and a little description and then a link straight to the loan bank to borrow it. And that's been a great way for us to get things out that haven't been out. It's very searchable, very customized. They have 24-hour a day, 7-day a week tech support. and they have been great about anything we request. They have a computer programmer who's assigned to us, and so we come up with an idea, and as long as it fits within their overall plan, they work on it for us. And we can also generate some nice reports, which is really helpful in turning in data. Next slide, please. So our customers like how easy it is. They love those linked videos, of course, because it's right there with the item they're borrowing. They like seeing when things are due. And that new item slideshow is helpful, especially if you've been a borrower for a while. You can see what we've added recently, the embedded resources, and just knowing, you know, what's out and what's coming back. Yeah, it's helpful for them. Next slide, please. So there's still some challenges with it. We have not been able to integrate a survey. We can send a survey separately, but it's not built into the system automatically, and we'd love that. And there's a couple places where the language is not editable, where it's a little more library-ish, but for the most part, they let us edit that. That's really improving. Our patrons have to place holds one at a time, so we were wishing there was a way that they could do multiple holds. They're working on that for us. And then there's just the buttons on the patron side. We'd really like to get words under them, so it's a little more intuitive. But otherwise, those are kind of the main challenges. And for the most part, I'd say they've been super responsive. So next slide. As you're thinking about trying to decide what kind of system you want, I would say one of the most important things is having the right people at the table. Like, you need someone who really understands detail and thinking this way. It's not enough to say, oh, I want a system that will track for me. It's more detailed than that of what is it that you want to track, and how often do you need to know it, and do you want automatic emails, and someone who really thinks that way. For us, overdue items are an ongoing challenge. So we have different systems in place. We do have an email that we generate that says these items are overdue and this is when they're due back. And we send that to our entire group. So kind of some public shaming. We do have issues with broken items, not that much. Broken and lost items are not a huge deal because we're checking it every time. And so we know immediately who broke it, and usually people are great about that. We can get it fixed and replaced right away. I think it's really important to have a location. It takes space in our office when there's an empty shelf there. You know, we're always tempted to just fill in, but we feel like that's part of the organization of it, and knowing where an item is and that it's out or in, whatever. Certainly we had to compromise when we were looking for this system and figure out, you know, what was going to work and what wasn't. And be a little bit flexible. I would say too, we have a sign out sheet for internal loans because this is web-based, and you can certainly do it on your phone or any computer, but when our internal folks were coming over to borrow things for device demos and so forth, sometimes they're moving too quickly, and the idea of sitting down at a computer, even though it takes less than 2 minutes, it's better just to have a sign out sheet, some sort of system for the internal stuff. And then also, it's really important to cross-train. Like, we initially had only one person who was really skilled at this, and they were leaving and we had a bit of a panic. So I would really encourage that. And then we use a lot of Google Forms. All of our stuff exports easily to Excel as well, so it's very searchable. But we also use a lot of Google Forms as add-ons within the system. So next slide. I think that's it for me.
Okay, well, we do have some time for questions. So does anybody have a question? If so, you should unmute yourself. Anybody have a question? Let me just check the chats. No? Okay. Does anybody have a different system for the physical management that they would like to share? Okay, we do have some questions coming in from the chat. Question about the SWAC system from Carol Page. And the question is, does the SWAC system allow accessible videos?
Yes, this morning, and Carol, it does. We get our videos predominantly from YouTube, but yeah, we have been pretty careful. I mean, I think all the videos on there are accessible.
And from Melinda, do you have a standard protocol for getting rid of older equipment?
Sure, I can answer that too. So within the university and with our Colorado Department of Education, we are required to fill out when an item is no longer in use, like older equipment, then we fill out a kind of an end of life form. And then we do, because some of the equipment is purchased with Department of Education funds, we put that first up available to our schools. So if it's an item that is maybe still working, but no longer available to purchase, we take it out of the loan bank, but offer it to our schools to use on a long-term loan there.
This is
Thanks. Yeah, Justin?
yeah, this is Justin with the INDATA project. We also have an end of life form that we use. Any of the older equipment that we do have is, whether it's broken or not, we send it to, we have another program here as a part of the Assistive Technology Act, the reuse program, and we send it to the reuse program and they will either recycle it if it's broken. We have a partnership here in Indiana with a tech recycler, or if it's not broken, then they will try to give it out to people in Indiana with disabilities. And they just have to fill out an application for that form in order to obtain that equipment if it's older.
Great. Another question from Carol to Maureen. Are you able to collect performance measures with the SWAC system?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was one of our key things that was important to us. So part of their item survey request is that they have to indicate that in addition to the information that we collect for the Department of Education, we also collect information for the Tech Act program. So the items that we're turning in on the annual report are part of that item request survey. So, you know, what's the reason for the request? Was it successful or not? Things like that.
Great. Other questions? Okay, last call. All right, well, thank you all for attending. I will be sending out a link. If you would please take a few minutes and please take a few minutes to complete the evaluation that I'll be sending out. The next demo loan community of practice will be on March 13th, and it'll be featuring information on eye gaze by LC Technologies. Thanks for joining today, and you have probably 10 extra minutes that you didn't count on having. So have a great day, and thanks again to our great panel. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Amy.